Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. As you see, we're ready for another edition of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, and we have those gentlemen ready to roll. With that being said, welcome to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is still on assignment. We'll put a period and put that right there, Charles.
There you go.
Welcome to episode 644 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From the NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. Quite simply, we call it HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta, along with my co-host. Today, we have none other than Charles Bishop, David Rhodes, that's David L. Rhodes for those that don't know, and A.D. Drew, that is A.D. Drew for those that don't know. We are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, I do participate in the Sam Andrews Black Fantasy Football League, historic league that's been around for 20 years when Black Fantasy Football was just starting off. I joined recently over the couple of years, and one of our members, Barry Sands, had heart surgery. We certainly learned today that he's come out of it as well as you can expect with going into such invasive surgery. So prayers continue to be held him high, and just want to say get well, Barry, and thankfully it all went well in terms of the surgery. So I want to give him a little love, a little shout out to the Sam Andrews Black Fantasy Football League. Charles, you've seen us do our things around there a little bit.
I have. It's a good group, Doc. Very good group.
I appreciate it. We feed families during Thanksgiving and Christmas turkeys and all the sides during that time of the year. So we don't all just have our fun in terms of Black Fantasy Football League, but we also do things for the community. So that's really the brotherhood that we're able to do in terms of that. David Rose, as he covers the NFL, I no longer watch that. So it's a little hard doing the fantasy football from that perspective. But we make it work. You can relate to that, though, David, in terms of what you do out there. On the other side of your time, when you're not covering HBCU sports, doing the Indy Report, doing HBCU Nightly, MD, man, the man of the people, man. David, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. You know, it's funny, MD's tonight, and we might talk about the economy tonight. We're going to talk about coaches and players and the economy tonight.
Yeah, that should be an interesting conversation when you put that all together, Charles.
That is the purpose.
How you doing today? Speaking of the economy,
I'm doing horrible. You see this wrinkle line right up in here?
Don't look at these indexes, man. Stay away. Do not look.
How can you not look?
It's impossible because that's all they're talking about now.
I know what you're saying, David. It's a trap.
I'm telling you. The conversations that work about that.
Oh, see, he's retired, so he has a whole different scope of this.
Whole different.
We still working towards it. He like, what? I did all this work to retire early, and now you never mind. A.D. Drew, let's move to the next subject because Charles is not gonna be able to do the rest of the show.
Yeah, I'm out of
Drew,
first.
How are you doing?
Try not to upset the apple cart, everybody. Nothing crazy going on over here. No hostile takeovers or anything else going on. So
Inside joke, I suppose. With that being said,
Oh,
Charles, I'm gonna go to you, Charles. And that can go on many levels when you talk about hostile takeover.
oh my
You
God.
can take it how they work. Charles, let's get out of this mess and talk about some HBCU sports.
Yeah, well, big thing. When we take a look at HBCU sports today, as HBCU basketball coach swaps jobs within the league, so Alabama A&M set to make a big hire in the HBCU basketball landscape as it prepares to announce Grambling State's Dante Jackson as its next head men's basketball coach. So this was first reported by HBCU Sports, confirmed by HBCU Game Day. So now Dante Jackson will take over for Otis Hewley, who resigned last month after 3 seasons at the helm in Huntsville. So new era on the hill over there in Alabama A&M.
Good stuff. And we're going to take a deeper dive in the second segment to talk a little bit about this. Maybe Charles will share a little bit of history. Some of y'all may have it in different conferences. We saw a similar thing in terms of the MEAC on the women's side, but we'll take a deeper dive and just get these gentlemen thoughts in terms of such a move, how that happens, what may have happened in this case. Also, another thing we'll talk about, what do these coaches, what do the ADs do now, the presidents, chancellors, if you would, where do you go if you from Grambling in terms of what direction? With that being said, before we take that deeper dive, Dave, let me go to you and see what are your thoughts in terms of HBCU news of the day.
I'm going to lean towards the Indies today, my man, and I'm going to tell you why, Doc, because shout out to Alan Johnson, the track and field head coach. He won Coach of the Year in the CAA. Shout out to Jason Holmes, who won men's indoor track athlete of the year. And shout out to the Hamptons head coach as well on the ladies' side, who also won.
Oh, wow.
Track coach of the year on the women's side. So 3 out of the 4 major awards were headed by HBCUs. I've got to pull his name because his name's escaping me right now.
It happens to the best of us.
Sure
as you're searching for that information, let me go to AD Drew and get his HBCU thoughts of the day, and then we'll come back to Dave. Oh, you got it?
Pierce. Yeah. Shout out to Maurice Pierce. He won CAA Coach of the Year on the women's side for indoor track.
Let me say congratulations to all those coaches getting it done anytime when you are coach of the year, coach a conference accolades. You doing not just something right, you're doing a lot right. AD Drew, what's going on in your mind, in your world, in terms of HBCU?
Well, I'm going to talk about the coach that's right down the athletic suite from me, and that's Morehouse head basketball coach Douglas Whitler, who has been chosen along with Eric Martin to lead Team Al Adams in the HBCU All-Star game that will be this Sunday in San Antonio, Texas at Freeman Coliseum. A little bit of background about Whitler. Whitler's a former first team all-conference player for Morehouse. I put an L on when I was coaching. I always have to remind him about that. But anyway, after serving as an assistant coach from 2009 to 2015 and as associate head coach from 15 to 21, he took over as an interim in 21 and got the job on a full-time basis in 22. As an assistant, 8 all-conference players, 3 newcomers of the year, 2 SIAC players of the year, and 3 All-Americans as an assistant. As a head coach, succeeding the legendary Grady Brewer, who passed away.
Rest in peace.
He's first year, 21-7, 15-2 in conference. Winning the conference title that year, had an 18-game winning streak. Whitler's the only coach in Morehouse history. Mind you, Morehouse has been playing basketball for 115 years. And he's the only coach in Morehouse history to win 21 games in his first season. He three-peated he's been there for 4 years. He three-peated his first 3 years out and finished second in the SIAC East this year and owns the most wins in the first 4 years in program history and has the second highest winning percentage ever in Morehouse history.
Good stuff. Way to make sure you put some of that NCAA D2 mid-major love into the program. Well appropriate. The other thing, since you talked about the HBCU All-Star game, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this year. They're adding the women to the ledger. So you'll have both the men's side, which has transpired over the last several years with the men. And now we're adding the women as they head down to San Antonio, the Riverwalk, for things to take place this Sunday, as Drew alluded to, with the teams taking place. You might find a way to sneak down there for that, Charles, and get on back before it all gets started. I'll keep y'all updated and let you know next week whether I was able to make it down there or not. With that being said, I want to add a little bit of something here. I thought this was pretty cool. You may or may not have heard this yet. Moore receives Lou Henson Award as top mid-major player in college basketball from MEAC Sports. Norfolk State men's basketball guard Brian Moore Jr. earned possibly the most impressive accolade of his career on Tuesday afternoon, receiving the Lou Henson Award from collegeinsider.com. The award recognizes the top mid-major player in college basketball. Norfolk State is only, I should say, the second school to have multiple players win the Lou Henson Award. Kyle O'Quinn, y'all remember his magic back in the day with Norfolk State, received the recognition in 2012. He also, Kyle O'Quinn, went on to play in the NBA, so that might be a good marker for Brian Moore Jr., I'm sure, as he will continue to push forward. Moore took the MEAC by storm in his first season with the Spartans after transferring from Murray State. Pretty good basketball program over there. He's from the Harlem, New York product, averaged 18.1 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 3.0 assists per game while shooting 54.5% from the floor and 39.4% from the arc, just under 40%. Really nice. He was the only guard in the nation to average at least 18 points per game while shooting over 54% from the field or better, with a minimum of 20 games played to do that. Leading the Spartans to their fourth ever MEAC tournament title, Moore took home the MEAC tournament most outstanding player award as he got it done. Man, that was a magical championship game, particularly if you're Norfolk State. Maybe not quite as magical if you're South Carolina State. You would have liked it ended in a different fashion. The Lou Henson Award, however, honors the former Illinois and New Mexico State head coach who won 775 games in 41 seasons. Coach Henson is the winningest coach in Illinois basketball history with 423 victories. But shout out to Norfolk State men's basketball guard Brian Moore Jr. for earning the Lou Henson Award as the top mid-major player in college basketball. With that being said, let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll talk a little bit more about basketball news before we get into baseball. It's always football season, but we don't always get a chance to talk about basketball. Some significant moves for both conferences. One, it looks like they're about to make a move. We got the official announcement for Alabama A&M. If you hadn't been following, we still have Alabama State on the women's side. We still have Prairie View on the women's side. So it'll be interesting as that gets going. But we do know who will lead the Bulldogs of Alabama A&M. And it will be interesting to see what these gentlemen think in terms of what took place and what's next for Grambling since he moved over from the Grambling State Tigers. With that being said, we'll be right back after this first break.
Let's face it, shopping for insurance can be time-consuming. That's why when it comes to your auto, home, and life insurance needs, make things simple and trust the experts at Allstate. They will help you get the coverage that fits your needs while helping you bundle your life, home, and auto policies. Bundling saves you money, sure, but it also saves you time, so you can enjoy the things that matter most even more. Contact me, Tammy Haynes, your local agent, for a free personalized insurance quote. Allstate, are you in good hands?
There's a shot. It might be. It could be. Right field, grand slam! What a shot! That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do, and all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville's Inside HBCU Sports Lab. With that being said, I promise you we get a little talk about the transfer. We're talking about the transfer portal for coaches who do have contracts, but you also have the transfer portal for players where it sounds like coaches may not be quite as happy for various reasons. We touched on this just a little bit in terms of Grambling State, since we're talking about Grambling State on the basketball side. We got Grambling State in terms of the football side, where their coach made a comment that we talked about that somehow that there should be a buyout for player transfers. Mainly he's talking about P4, that should be a buyout. And I tried to leave it alone. And in some of these spaces, social media spaces, some are social media places where we do talk among each other in the groups. There were a couple of HBCU coaches and alumni fans that got on board and thought what he said was kind of interesting and wanted to get everybody's thought. I wanted to stop it in its tracks. I don't want to hear it. I think poor Charles, he's been working with me so long, and we've talked about this, that he now falls in line with my thought process and others from this perspective as he talks with his students. It's fascinating to me from the perspective is like when we talk about buyouts, I want to make this clear. When you talk about buyouts, you're talking about contracts. That's the framework. When you hear buyouts, professional level, or even folks outside of sports that have contracts and they want to leave or their employee wants to leave, then it's a buyout. Well, the problem with the context he was talking about in the buyout, there's no contract. Mm-hmm. I also had a concern when he was personalizing. He said they should pay me. I was like, well, you're not getting a dime, coach. You might be lucky that he provides something to your program. But if anything, if there was such a thing in these buyouts, the money would go to university. Hopefully the university would put it to athletics. And then your athletic director, your VP of athletics would choose whether they would want to share that back with the football program. And it's certainly not going to the coach. So that annoyed me in terms of that. And I'm sure that's not what he meant. But I'm just like, come on, we got to be a little sharper than this. And we got our commissioners running to Congress for the SWAC, MEAC, CIAA, and SIAC, saying that they don't want players in general, particularly for HBCU programs, to get noted as employees. Because if you get a contract, and David had a great terminology. He said, "Well, make them contractors." I said, "Yeah, that's true, but you still talk contract. It's embedded in the word.
It's
tough. Contract, they become employees, whether they're contract or full employee, they're employees. But
it's tough.
Said we don't want to make them employees because they said that will unravel the whole thing.
You can issue these kids a 1099 if you want to.
But
look, it's funny.
One thing, not even paying attention to what's going on with the NCAA, nor with their commissioners, which is annoying to me. And I'm like, look, if you really want all this, because you hear all this smoke from everybody else, it's not just HBCU coaches doing this. If you want all this smoke, just collectively bargain with the players, whatever level. I've been pushing that for the P4 because they really are on.
They need it probably more than anywhere else, ultimately.
Exactly. I don't know. I don't think they want to try to do that. But now they didn't replace. Then the question talking about the NIL may be a contract, which it's not considered one. But now they're gonna try to move away because they canceled the NIL. People don't even realize that there's no more NIL. Now they have this new thing where they're gonna tie it into financial aid based on the fact that they're gonna now be able to push this in-house, and the athletic departments can provide revenue if they have it in their coffers from the institution to supplement pay players. But they skirt all around this. But I digress. I did want to put that on the table. But the other discussion, and you can go in either one of these directions that you choose, since this is an open forum segment. Some of you all may be able to touch on this. Some of you can't. So I'm going to protect all of those for that reason. The other side of this, where we can talk about this, is some experiences. Coach Jackson left Grambling, which is in the SWAC. He's going to Alabama A&M, which is in the SWAC. We've seen this a little bit before, not very often. Then there's talks out there that Norfolk State looks like they've found their coach, who is currently at Coppin State because he hasn't been formally moved over and announced. That's on the women's side because the Norfolk State lost their coach. Vickers, obviously, everybody knows by now, to Auburn. So I just kind of wanted to go around and get your thoughts on either one of these subjects for this open subject as we talk a little bit more every once in a while. We get a chance, Charles, as you know, to talk about the business side of sports in general, specifically HBCU sport. So I wanted to get your thoughts and see which direction, which topic that we put up here openly that you wanted to tackle and give your inputs on that.
I mean, I think I got a very fascinating look today at coaching at Grambling. Great, in terms of a coach talking about his time there at Grambling and really offering a perspective of, Grambling is not a big place. It is a village in between Ruston and that area over there. And sometimes people don't understand how difficult it is to win there because you have to essentially recruit people to this brand name, but they have to come and see what the village looks like. And it was very interesting listening to him talk about that because he talked about Coach Jackson being able to get kids to buy in to come to Grambling. And then, once you get them there, to win there. So I thought that was a really interesting perspective in terms of moving on from Dante Jackson. Like, who do you bring to come in and they can understand that Grambling brand is different. That village will turn on you in a heartbeat is what he's saying. So I thought that was just really kind of a fascinating perspective. And
they do that generally, but usually it's football, quicker than football, some degree baseball, because they've had some success there. But the problem is now they got used to the fact that you can win in basketball. So
Grambling's a basketball school.
I'm just on the women's side.
Basketball school.
That on there because I like to make sure we're historically accurate. On the women's side, they've had a lot of success on the women's side in terms of basketball. But recently, they've had that success in terms of the men. And go back with the caveat that this is a program back in the NIA days that actually won and cut down the net for a national championship. And it's not many programs out there in general, but even not many HBCU programs that can talk about the fact that they won a national championship. This is the first time they went to the tournament on the men's side in the NCAA. So I want to put that qualifier out there. David, jump into this. Which one do you want to tackle?
Yeah, I was part of the conversation about the whole independent contractor thing.
I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't going to tell him.
No, you mentioned me, so it's fine.
Okay.
Nah, but and the thing for me has always been, it's about liability, right? And I'm with you. I think they should. I think they should collectively bargain. But if you're not trying to make them full-fledged employees of the university, independent, like, and I made the comparison to WWE. All those guys you see that go on WrestleMania, those guys are not WWE employees. They're independent contractors, so they don't have to pay for certain things. They'll take care of them if they get hurt on the job. But outside of that, they pay them their money. They come to these shows. They go home. They got to deal with everything else. And that's why I think that construct could potentially work, but you're still going to have a structure in place at those particular universities. Now, as for the coaches, I'm fascinated to see what Coppin State and Grambling is going to do at this point and who they're going to hire. Like, for those prospective institutions, for Norfolk, for Coach Woods going to Norfolk State, it all made sense. He's a Norfolk grad. It just made perfect sense. He was doing what he had to do at Coppin, so it was excellent. But then when you go into what happened with Grambling, I'm fascinated to see. You made a good point about the area and about the G, but it's going to be fascinating to see what Graham is going to do here. I know there's a coach, that's kind of, I don't know if he signed a contract or not, but he might be available down in Tallahassee.
You will not let that go.
I'm not. Sorry, AD.
We're going to go from West Division to East Division and out East Division to West Division. I know we don't have any basketball, but.
Wait. So Dave, you expect that man to go from Miami to Tallahassee to Grambling?
Why not?
I'm not even talking about the institutions. I'm talking about
no. Look, listen. We know that Huntsville is much more attractive than Grambling. We get it. But look, I'm just saying, man. Y'all need to take care of that man while in Tallahassee. I understand the city's nice.
Than Grambling.
Yeah, he has 2 more years on his contract. Grambling can offer 4. But besides that, it was a different, for those that don't realize this, that Dr. Paul Bryant, as was told to a lot of folks, and it's fascinating when you get a chance to be in the media part of this. And I'm sure other alumni do this as well. When we at the SWAC tournament or any of these tournaments, we get together football season for these event heritage. I started to go back to the Heritage Bowl. Celebration Bowl. We did it back then in the Heritage Bowl days too. MEAC SWAC Challenge, media days. We get to hear a lot of this talking going on. So you get some of this. But people may not realize that Dr. Paul Bryant actually hired Coach Jackson at Grambling before Dr. Bryant came to Grambling. He was actually the AD at Stillman. Guess who he hired at Stillman? It was Coach Jackson. Yeah. So there is that familiarity, comfortability, space. You alluded in terms of city size. It'll be interesting. Usually when these make these moves, obviously you get additional years, even though he recently signed one after winning at Grambling. The years on your contract was there, may be there. Certainly probably got a pay raise, which doesn't hurt. Not to say they was looking for that, but I would imagine a lot of things in terms of familiarity with the AD puts you in a position that you seriously going to look at that regardless of what you have going on at Grambling. And then you add on some of the things that David talked about, some of the things Charles talked about. Let me go to you, AD Drew, and then Charles, I'll come back because I see you have something at the tip of your tongue. AD Drew, which one of those do you want to take?
I'm going to touch on the portal, but before I touch on the portal, Dr. Cavil, Dave, Charles, I have to give the disclaimer that these opinions are my own opinions that do not express the opinions of the institution that I work for, nor their policies. So I've got to give the disclaimer first.
Smart man.
Smart man.
Now that we got the legal out the way. Fellas, these kids are going to have to wake up one day and realize this college athletic thing with the portal is a business now.
Yep.
Just like any one of these kids has the freedom to move, and God bless them if they can move and go get a bag. I never stop anybody from going out and getting their bag.
Good point.
But those bags sometimes are paper bags. They're not Louis. And that's what these kids are finding out. You know the Walmart bag that you pull out and you go to put something in it, then you realize it's got a hole in the bottom of it. That's what these kids are getting.
And the money's just dropping on the floor.
And it's just dropping out. And it ain't nothing coins dropping out of it. It ain't dollar bills dropping out of it, man. These are not Louis that they're getting. So
very true.
You gotta realize this is a business. You come in, you gotta perform. The kids don't want to perform like they did back in the days when we were in school. They don't want the competition, and then they get mad because they not playing, and you bench them, but you got somebody playing better than you. So you're gonna go run somewhere else. Let me rephrase that. You're gonna go try to run somewhere else, because chances are, if you was riding the bench at institution A, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to ride the bench at institution B, unless you're coming from one of those type of programs. And if you come in from one of those type of programs, we know you some type of damaged goods. How much damage can we have on this used car that we're buying? Is it the transmission? Is it the motor? Is it just the dent in the fender? Those are the type of things that coaches are looking at. So please,
it's worth it if you put the right parts together, though. It's just the day and age we're in. Yeah.
It is, Charles. But the thing is, a lot of these kids are making these decisions with emotions, chasing a dream. Because you got mad because coach didn't call to play for you with 5 seconds left for the game-winning shot. He called it for somebody else. Now you mad. Now you want to go transfer.
But then you get players like a Diamond Johnson, because when they sat her in that big game, that's why she left. And look what Norfolk got, and it worked out pretty well. So it's all relative, right, AD?
I mean, see, Dave, you talked about somebody who had proven it and got sat in one game versus somebody who has never gotten on the court and want to send their film out talking about, I came from a P5.
No, it's the grainy film too. It's the grainy film they found at practice that they found. They couldn't get real film because they didn't really play. They had to get the practice film.
You got
I want to add this.
2 garbage games all year, and you sending it out looking for somebody to pick you up.
Yeah, I think the point was made. Charles, you want to jump back in here?
I'm sorry, I'm off my soapbox.
No. I was gonna go back to you, Doc. In terms of you've always talked about look at the relationships. And it was sort of a natural thing to kind of take a look at Dr. Bryant in terms of his relationship with Coach Jackson. So you could kind of connect the dots pretty easy with regards to that. I'm curious now, in terms of the relationships that Travian Scott has within the coaching community, in terms of the immediate thing that I kind of jump to today. I'm like, I wonder if there's a hot assistant coach out there. I wonder if there is a somebody that is already, kind of in lockstep with where you've seen Dr. Scott move forward through his career.
This will be his first basketball coach he gets to hire, right? Because if Coach Jackson was hired by AD Bryant at Graham, this will be his first. You're on mute, AD. This would be his first opportunity to hire him as basketball coach.
Yeah, I believe he inherited Jackson, if I remember correctly.
That's correct. Yeah, this will be his first basketball hire. He's had 2 football hires, right? But first men's basketball hire. He hired a women's basketball coach. He did have that. So it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. And you're right. What is the connection? Are you going to get somebody that you've seen in action? And usually most ADs, I want to say this out there, most ADs have a short list. And they keep it in the drawer. And they keep contact with coaches, just seeing how they're doing, based past relationships. Remember, ADs have tracked up well. Oftentimes, they were assistant ADs, associate ADs, deputy ADs, senior ADs.
A lot of them coached too.
some of them even coach. So those relationships go back. They go to these conferences. And so they have their eyes on somebody, but oftentimes it's the timing. Is the timing right? Where's the person come from? And then you got to remember that you work within an ecosystem. So you're working with your president. Does the president have a certain framework or mindset they want? Do you have a board that you answer to? Does your board, how involved are they? And quietly, sometimes we want to talk about this, sometimes we don't. And so those are things that we talk about. But there's one thing as we close out this. Go ahead, Charles.
No, I was just curious. AD, is there a Division II coach that should warrant a very good look?
Yeah, there's a couple of ones. You can't say Morehouse. Don't say that one.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Is there a couple of D2 head coaches?
D2 or NAIA coach that deserves a worthy look at Grambling?
Oh well, I mean, let's start off with the obvious in Langston, Oklahoma.
Yep.
If you want to start off with the obvious coach that deserves a look down there with Chris Wright. If Florida Memorial, I don't know what's going on with Florida Memorial, but they seem to be pulling out good programs down there at Florida Memorial also. How about
they didn't re-sign that coach either?
How about Coach Beasley at Stillman? Those would be the three from the NAIA level that I would definitely take a look at if I was.
What about Struthers at Tougaloo or Xavier's coach? Are those two that you would consider at the same level?
I don't see Williams as the type of coach that would go to Grambling.
Okay.
I think he's more urban. He's from North Carolina, if I remember right. I would see him if something popped up in the MEAC or the CIAA. I could see Williams leaving, Xavier going that direction.
Home.
Yep. Yeah, more than I could see him going to a Grambling. On the D2 level in our conference, I mean, here let's start off once again. Let's start off with the obvious one, Fred Watson at Miles.
That's the one I had in mind.
But Fred Watson has the dual role of not only head coach but athletic director.
Right.
So how does that play? That would be one that I would I would take a look at. I would look at the two Virginia schools, Union and State, and kick the tires at that if we want to look at CIAA coaches. So
what I just saw, I think Liv just reported that the Fayetteville State coach didn't get a new contract.
No, he didn't.
You could consider him.
Add that one to the list. I mean, there are plenty of D2 and NAIA coaches who are deserving. Just stay out of Atlanta. That's all I'm gonna say.
You send them over there to Atlanta. You send them across the street. You would be mad if they lose their coach.
Yeah, Lonnie don't come to the house, right? Lonnie don't come to the house.
I'm gonna throw a name out there just on GP since we're going across the street. Clark Atlanta assistant Fred Summers.
There you go.
Former head coach at
if we talk about assistants, so we just stretch this out. Are there any assistants on current staffs in the SWAC, MEAC, or other D1s that pop out to you that you would say, hey, keep your eyes on these guys. Maybe it's their time to get the move. And that could be women or men, since we have women's spots open too.
Yeah.
With that being said, go ahead. You have a name that you want to put out there today?
Coach Erb from A&T on the women's side, really good coach. Heck of an assistant coach for A&T. Part of the run that they had under T-Rob. I don't want T-Rob to lose this since I love Coach Erb, but she's a good one.
Drew?
That's all right. I can't say a name, but I do know somebody.
Yeah. Send it in the text. Last thing I'll say as we close up on the transfer portal that I want to say that doesn't get enough light to me. We had a case, Jeremy Roach. You may be familiar with him. He was at Duke, graduated to his credit, and he ended up playing at Baylor this year. He came out and openly said that he would have stayed at Duke, but he kind of got pushed out. Which is another thing that is not talked about, coaches that are pushing players in the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always the players. Oftentimes there are coaches, for whatever reason, maybe for a reason that needs to be said in terms of that, is the fact that they are pushing them in the portal because they're ready to get the next player in, or they didn't like the practice habits, as AD Drew talked about, which could be true. But they oftentimes push them out. I also want to go back. Assistant coaches think about is maybe Bo Bivens over there at Morehouse. I know Drew can't say that, but I can. Former head coach, Clark Atlanta University and Grambling State alum. So something to think about on that one. With that, we'll take our next break. We'll come back on the other segment. We'll make it a little bit shorter because we want to talk about some key players, how they're doing in terms of batting average, home runs, stolen bases, wins, ERA, strikeouts as we get into baseball mode. The last segment, we'll talk about some key matchups this weekend as things are getting interesting. We're starting to see the transition with a couple of teams playing. We told you already how what was the East Division is dominating the West Division. We'll talk about some of those matchups in the last segment to see if Charles thinks that's going to continue this weekend and get the thoughts of AD and David. With that, we'll take our next break and come back on the other side.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
I want to go a little bit over some of these stats and see where you stand, and I'll just give some updates, and then you can kind of give up your thoughts on it. Cardell is still doing what he does, batting average and home runs. Didn't add any totals to his home runs this weekend, but he's maintaining his batting average and actually improved it, Charles, and David and AD Drew. He went from 456 last week to 462, which is just amazing to me in terms of what he's doing. Didn't add on the home run side. Give it up to Juan Cruz that also improved his batting average to 442 after a brilliant weekend, which allowed Trey to move up in terms of the matchups there to 429 as he was 419 last week. I should say Cruz fell a little bit from 442 to 421 when you talk about that. And then Bates dropped out of the top five as Rayfield Adams III jumped up in the top five, batting 414 this week as Rayfield dropped out. Bates dropped in terms of getting at there. So just giving you some mixes and letting you know how these people shape out. You now have two sluggers over there at Alabama State as Douglas has jumped in the mix. He hit a couple of home runs this past weekend. He's up to 7 now as Juan Cruz added 1 to the ledger at 7 in terms of this weekend. And you got Duke Early that had a huge weekend, Charles, as you were calling it, as he was bombs all over the place. He's up to 6 now, along with Cameron Hill adding 1 himself. So just wanted to try to talk a little bit about what that looks like on the baseball paths. You have Bryce Hughes that's jumped up there is he added 6 this weekend from 21 previously, putting in some muscle that put him at the top of the conference with Trey Rutledge. He added 1 this weekend, so he stays in that top 5 mark with Jordan, who stays in the 2nd spot. He added 2 bases. So these folks are adding on a clip. I'm going to go around and let each of y'all talk about on the offensive side, if you want to look at it that way. Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of some of these batting averages, home runs, stolen bases, what folks are doing on the base pass there between last week and this week?
I tell you what, a couple guys, and we got an opportunity to watch them this past weekend, but Kelvin Phillips and Trey Rutledge, you better not throw them fastballs. They turn on. I mean, and both of those guys, we saw Kelvin Phillips, he had a cycle against Grambling in the rubber game that weekend. Then he came back this past weekend against Alabama A&M, had a 5 RBI day, had a 7 RBI day with a home run against Alabama A&M. Really mangled their pitching, but not to be outdone was Trey Rutledge. Texas Southern could not keep him off the bag. So it was very interesting to watch the top of the lineup guys for Texas Southern. And I came away really, really impressed from watching Texas Southern this past weekend. Man, they're 1 through 6 hitters. You got to work to get them out. I mean, they got some great bats, some great sticks in the lineup. So it'll be interesting watching them go forward the rest of the season. Cardell Thibodeau, another top of the lineup guy who's just beating up pitching and not just swag pitching, but he had another big game this past week. I started following him a little bit more this past week. Went 2 for 4 against UNO. Had a couple of RBIs in that game. So, and we saw these guys when they played in the Cactus Jack, you know, in terms of just their hitting prowess. So one thing you got in the SWAC is a lot of great bats. Cameron Hill is a Jackson kid playing out there at Grambling, a tremendous amount of power. And he's as one of those new signees to Grambling's team, he's jumped into the top 5 in home runs in SWAC.
Good stuff. Good stuff. David, talk a little bit about on the mound, if you would. You have wins with Luckett. He getting a win this past weekend, so he moves up from the 2 spot to number 5. So he has 5 thus far. You see Eric stays in the mix there. He added a win this past weekend. Workman also added a win, so they move into the work they're getting done. Tanner stays did not necessarily get the win, even though the Ball Cup won. Tanner stays at 4 in terms of what goes on there. So interesting that I note that there are 2 FAMU rallies in the top 5, and they lead the conference. So you see that there are also 2 in ERA. You have Granger that stayed up there. He's reduced his ERA after this weekend. He went from 2.75 last week to 2.39. Then you know the work that he puts in there. Eric actually lowered his ERA, going from 3.54 to 2.91. So these guys are putting in some work in terms of what that looks like. David, I want to get your thoughts in terms of that. And then I'm going to go to you, AD Drew, on the strikeouts, because I know you like to look at strikeouts and also the errors out there. Don't have that information, but certainly will get your thoughts in terms of that. Starting with you, Dave.
I will say, man, when you see ERAs below 3 in this level, we talking draft picks, man. If they can keep, if those pitchers can keep that respective pace, which is the beautiful thing, because we don't have enough pitchers coming out of our leagues as it is.
Good point.
And I think that's a good moneymaker. If you can get the single, double, triple, and then finally get into the major, that's major league to say the least, so to speak.
Especially when you facing some of these guys with over 400 bats.
Yeah, man. Like when you got numbers like that, when you're dealing with batters and sluggers like that, man, with that type of percentage, and you're able to keep your ERA that low, that's a beautiful thing to see. So I hope, it's early in the season, but I hope this pace continues with regards to the ERA, because they're pretty low in the SWAC, which is a beautiful thing to see.
Good stuff. AD, I'm going to go with you. Strikeouts. Joel Coral had 45 last week. He's already at 51. Pretty good weekend. He got 6 strikeouts during his outing. When you think about it, Gonzalez, he had 10 strikeouts. Eric Gonzalez went from 40 last week to 50 this week, getting it done. Eric went from 32 last week to 45. So think about the outing he had in terms of being on the bump. LeBoy went from 35 last week into 44. So you got some folks not only pitching it, but they're getting those strikeouts, which are some things I know you tend to look at. So I want to get your thoughts on that, as well as why one of the things you like to look at is the fielding percentage as well.
Well, if you on a team, a pitcher on a team that has a suspect fielding percentage, I hope that you are one of those strikeout pitchers that you just got done talking about, Dr. Cavil, because sometimes you can't rely on your defense if that's the type of defense that you have.
Very fair.
Usually if a pitcher is averaging 1 strikeout per inning pitch, he's having a pretty decent campaign. So anytime you're above that, and when you're twice as many strikeouts per innings pitch, that's something special. When it's all said and done, that means not only do you have some junk, but your junk moves, because you throw the ball straight and hard long enough, somebody's going to catch up with it and time it perfectly and send it about 450 the other direction. But if you got that ball that likes to dance and move, and you get ahead of the count, fellas, best pitch of baseball, what is it? Anybody know?
Change up.
Anybody else want to take a guess?
I'm a fastball guy, but I'm biased.
How about you, Dr. Cavil?
I like the fastball.
When I was coaching baseball in high school, went to a coach's camp,
Slider.
and he told me the best pitch in baseball is strike one.
Yeah,
that's and he said that if you get that first pitch in for a strike, you're ahead of the count. The pitcher controls the at bat at that point in time.
That's true.
That's why I asked that question. So the best pitch in baseball is strike one. So just something for y'all to think about out there, kid. If no, it's not that slider. Strike one, baby. Strike one.
They can get strike ones too. They all can.
I do want to bring up a D2 athlete, Dr. Cavil, if we have time to get to it. Go ahead. You say go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not to be tooting the Morehouse horn once again, but we've got a pro here at Morehouse. Young man by the name of Elijah Pinckney, starting shortstop for Morehouse. He's finishing up his 3rd year. We'll be draft eligible, and there are rumors about him actually getting drafted this year. So let me give you some of his stats. Batting .511 on the season. That's number 2. That's only good for number 2 in the conference, though. .867 slugging percentage. On base percentage of 664, OPS 1.53 runs, and he scored 52 runs. And Dr. Cavil, just to let you know that he is a disciplined batter, he's drawn 36 walks.
That was a stat I was going to ask about.
Yeah, just to let you know where that ranks nationally on the Division II level. On base percentage of 644 is number 2 in the nation. In the nation, in Division II, he's number 6 in batting average in the nation. And not a bad thing. And one of y'all, I think y'all said it on one of those pods in the last week. Morehouse can hit the cover off the ball. They're number 11 in the nation in batting average, but we know what the rest of that comes with.
We'll take our last break, and we'll come back and talk about some of these key matchups coming up this weekend.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab for about this 10-minute segment, if you would. I want to talk about some of the key matchups. Interesting when you talk about this here is we're going back to the proverbial divisional games, or historically what were divisional matchups. Yeah, Mississippi Valley at Bethune-Cookman. Yeah, Prairie View at Pine Bluff. Jackson State at FAMU, which I think is a key one for me. Texas Southern at Alcorn. Alabama A&M at Alabama State. Rivalry games are always intriguing, right? Then you have Southern at Grambling, another one of those intriguing rivalry matchups. So starting with you, Drew, any of those matchups stick out to you? Which one that you would kind of have your eyes on if you had to pick one or two?
Southern Grambling, a Southern team that has been struggling all year. This is not the Southern of Roger Cador that we have seen this year. So seeing if they can take some get right juice this week and defeat their rivals. That one. And you wait a minute, I lost my batch. You said another one.
Southern Grambling, Alabama A&M, Alabama State.
It was on the former east side.
Jackson State FAMU.
There you go.
You should remember that one now. What you doing?
There you go. No, I was thinking about the school on the beach, but you know they got Valley, but you know Valley's on a little bit of a come up. That's gonna be a game that can sneak up on that school true. On the beach and everything, and you know, yeah, they're on our tail. So anything that can sneak up on them and you know push them back a game or two, we're gonna love it, especially considering that we're playing Jackson State. I mean, it is Jackson State, and if there's one team, especially in baseball, that is known to pull the rabbit out of the hat, I'm gonna give it to them Tigers in Jackson, Mississippi. So can FAMU continue doing what they're doing, hitting the cover off the ball with their pitching?
Yep, good one, David.
That Valley Bethune game is fascinating to me, man. That series is fascinating to me only because of the fact that I don't think nobody saw Valley being here.
That's true.
And now they have an opportunity to really show that they belong here.
When we say here, Valley is currently sitting at 4-5, winning a couple of series. So you're absolutely right. They're in the middle of the race, and coming into it, you would have had them at the bottom of the race. So good point.
Yeah. So from my perspective, if they could win this series against Bethune, that's an arrival point, and AD Drew will be thrilled.
as long as FAMU sweeps.
Exactly.
Yeah. Charles, final thoughts there in terms of matchups. What has your interest this weekend?
Yeah, Bethune Valley wasn't on my bingo card.
Look, man,
that is twice that he's laid it on Valley. After all these years, he'd be like, "Y'all gonna stop messing with Valley." Twice. I don't know. Maybe he's missing Mike's voice or something. He's like, microphone or something.
I wasn't on my bingo card. I would have to say that the pitching matchup between Florida A&M and Jackson State is very intriguing to me. Like when you start taking a look at Eric Gonzalez and Eric Elliott for Jackson State, two of the better pitchers in the SWAC. and they get to match up against Carson Kelly and Caleb Granger over the weekend. So the bats really got to come out in that series. Joseph Eichelberger has been on a tear for Jackson State. I think he went 4 for 4 this past week against Ole Miss in that loss in that midweek game. But that'll just be a very interesting series to sit up and watch and to see. We talk about that power dynamic, how much it shifted to the Florida schools. This is a sort of a statement series for Jackson State in terms of trying to go to Tallahassee and trying to take a series. So I'm very curious about that. Of course, Grambling and Southern is the other one that I'm really paying attention. And a sneaky one to me, I think, is Arkansas Pine Bluff and Prairie View. I think that's a very interesting one. Arkansas Pine Bluff had a very interesting 8-7 loss to Missouri this past week. So they hit the ball pretty well. So do they get any pitching to back them up? So that'll be a very interesting series to me. So Valley and Bethune-Cookman, I didn't see that one.
Look, man, you listen.
I like that.
I'm an underdog kid, so it's about seeing if they can do what they can. Like, nobody had them in the standings, so you never know.
You never know.
I think y'all had a great argument.
So if Valley does what they do and sneak into the tournament, this may be the first time since FAMU and Bethune have joined the conference, and we have not had the same 8 teams in the tournament, which brings up my question. Is it time since we talk about the student experience, we're doing it with basketball, is it time for the SWAC to let everybody in the baseball tournament too and do some type of double bye system to reward those teams that do it, like the SEC or the
I would like to see that.
or something like that? Because you realistically could have a student athlete who never sees postseason play, especially as top heavy as this conference is in baseball.
It's interesting because I always feel like baseball is like the sport where not all the teams really go, right? Like even when I was a kid, they were only 4 teams that made the playoffs in MLB.
Yeah,
with all them teams that they had at the time. So right. I've always felt like baseball is like the one where it should be the toughest place to make the postseason. I just feel that way.
I see arguments on both sides. I like Drew because he's talking about the player experience.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
He's talking about rewarding those teams and really keeping the tournament a special place for high level games. So it'll be interesting to see, do you get that talk? Because oftentimes if this is going to start, it's going to start with the coaches. So I'll be interested in what the coaches think. And then they push it to ADs and see if they can get the ADs buy-in. And then obviously the conference will take it to the presidents. And if they see it financially making sense, the conference will do whatever they tell them to do, basically.
Yeah. I mean, from a player, from just seeing players, you don't get an opportunity in postseason to see guys like Rayful Adams from Alcorn.
Yeah,
he's one of the top hitters. Trey Rutledge, another one that I got an opportunity to see this past weekend, Alabama A&M. Hell of a hitter. But it will be nice to see what they can do in a postseason format.
And you don't have to worry about the upsets because let's be real. 9 through 12, they may get a game. But they do that.
The double elimination. You're absolutely right.
They don't have pitching, right?
Yeah, they just don't have. You're absolutely right when you talk about that. I'll be fascinated to see what these matchups. I did want to say this. Shout out to Texas Southern. Shout out to Arkansas Pine Bluff. Shout out to Bethune-Cookman. As Charles said, watch. Yeah, we'll be watching these, but they'll be on Gamecast and trying to figure out the scores here and there. Fortunately, we might get a radio streaming call. But those programs, I may have missed 1 or 2, actually put it out there and you don't have to worry about a paywall. Not saying that you shouldn't do paywall, and maybe the programs have it at a position they do that. But for the media, they want to cover it. And maybe they should find a way the true media folks can get a pass for the paywall so we can do our due diligence about putting the information out to continue to educate the fans, provide the fans with the information they need. But shout out to those programs where you can watch games here and there, get some updates, either watch them live or going back to do that. So when we do the show, we can really give you some good updates. So I wanted to shout out those programs, not to hinder the other ones, but to really shout out those programs in terms of making it available for us to do it. With that being said, we'll call it a show. Great dialogue in terms of baseball. Thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. We also got some talk with basketball in there as well in the HBCU news of the day. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment. We'll check on him. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Will's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop, David L. Rhodes, AD Drew, every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll be back on Tuesday. Check out AD Drew. They might be back in the mix in terms of Sunday to give you their report. We'll see. Stay tuned to see where that comes in. Shout out to HBCU Nightly with David Rhodes.
I was busy last Sunday, Doc.
What'd you say?
I was busy last Sunday, man.
Just a little bit. We had
just
a picture.
You definitely were.
We didn't get it up there, but we'll see if we can get that picture out there. We had the background as you were doing the
regional.
What is it? The Elite Eight in terms of Atlanta, doing that matchup to see which team would go to the Final Four. Saw you back there doing your work and coverage. Good information you provided us, and I told you make sure you take your notes so we can bring it back and see where we can continue to push things forward for our HBCUs. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. It's DrKenyattacavil. That is Facebook and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Facebook and YouTube. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
David.
Lecture.
AD.
Dismissed. Travel light.